Native American tribes across the continent generally have a similar belief of Sasquatch or a Sasquatch-like being. These creatures all go by different names with respect to differing tribes and customs. Traditionally, native tribes in the Rockies and northwestern United States view Bigfoot as a physical being, no different than a human or another animal. However, their respect for animals as wise elder brothers gives them an overwhelming respect for Bigfoot as well, seeing the creature not as a conquest or something to fear, but as a guide or teacher and even an extension of themselves. Elsewhere in the United States, different natives view Bigfoot as a being that lives in between the physical and spiritual worlds. To these tribes, Bigfoot only makes his or herself known when delivering a message to the beholder. This kind of appearance could also be a sign of a turn of events or a warning of things to come. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to prepare yourselves as we enter the Bigfoot Zone. Thank you and stay tuned. The ECBRO Virginia Bigfoot Conference sponsors. Sponsored and promoted by Legit Paranormal.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Bigfoot Zone. And tonight we have a guest with us, Mr. Jonathan Wadsworth. I have to ask, I asked everybody, did I pronounce your name correctly?
No, sir, you didn't. It's Wadsworth.
Wadsworth. Okay. See, I have to ask because, yeah, no matter
It's all good.
I do that with everybody. I have a bad habit of butchering everybody's name up, and I feel bad for that. But I guess I should. I need to start asking in advance. So,
well, when you meet as many people as you do, it's kind of like not too hard to mispronounce somebody's name.
Right.
No worries.
Okay. Well, I tell you, now you're from out of Connecticut. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes, that's where I live.
Okay. Now, I got to ask, have you always been involved with Bigfoot?
Oh, hell no.
No?
No, like, when I was a kid, like, my family had, like I guess you would want to call it, like, a summer home or, like, hunting camp or whatever. It's, slash, in Vermont. And, like, that's where all this stuff started happening. It wasn't here in Connecticut. We don't have a heck of a lot of stuff going on here, but back in 1982, when I had my sighting, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on up there.
Right. Now, when you say a lot of stuff going on, like just different types of activity as far as wildlife and different things out in the woods, or?
Well, to be honest, Daniel, why don't I just tell you the story, and then I'll tell you what I think about, all the other crap after that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
Whenever
the
you're ready,
story's
you're
not
more than
that
welcome.
long.
Oh, that's okay.
So like I used to go up there every year for hunting season for it's 16 days in Vermont. And I lost my dad when I was young and he taught me how to hunt, but one of his best friends brought me up there every year for hunting season. And I went out and I was 19 years old and I had been hunting for probably 6, 7 years by then. And I went out deer hunting one morning and I climbed up in a tree stand that somebody else made, wasn't even mine. And I was sitting there and I was watching these two deer. They were both does. And in Vermont, it's illegal to shoot a doe.
Mm-hmm.
So there was nothing there to shoot. So I'm just watching, waiting, hoping the male comes out. So I'm sitting there for maybe, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes watching the same two deer. And all of a sudden, I see this thing come out of the woods. And I want to say it was about 40 yards away from the deer when it came out of the woods. And that's a pretty good distance. And this thing was on top of the first deer, like in a heartbeat.
Mm.
And I'm watching this thing, and I've never seen, I'm 19 years old, never heard of Bigfoot, nothing like that. And I'm watching this. This thing runs the deer down, grabs it by the the head or the neck or in that area, and just extended its arm out and stopped. And as soon as it did that, as soon as it jerked that deer, the deer went limp.
Mm.
And right when that happened, because I looked at this thing through my scope too, and it was a male. And it looked over its shoulder at me, put the deer under its arm like a sack of groceries, and walked back into the woods.
Wow.
It didn't care. It did not care one bit that I was there. It knew I was there, and it didn't care.
Wow. Now,
It,
when you... Oh, go ahead.
you know what the weird thing about it is? I was carrying a 270 high-powered rifle with a scope on it. And I could have put a bullet in that thing's head with no question. But you know what? You look at something like that, and you can't even decide what the heck it is. I mean, I do not shoot anything that I don't eat. Unless I had to, which never happened, but you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
You would
yeah.
never want to shoot something like that just to kill it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, when you said the Bigfoot jerked the deer, could you talk a little bit about that? Like, how exactly did it jerk and where?
It grabbed the thing it looked to me. I couldn't really tell it scooped its arm under the neck. And it either had its hand on the back of its head or on the jaw or something like that. I couldn't really tell. I mean, it happened so fast. And it stood up straight and then it bent forward and extended its arm with the deer in its arm and just stopped.
Wow.
And that deer was deader than a doornail.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds like it disconnected its, the vertebrae there.
It broke its neck. It definitely broke its neck.
Wow. Interesting. Did it make any noise or did it make
Not
any
a
grunts or
sound.
growls? No?
Not a
Wow.
sound. Nothing out of it. Even when it looked at me, it didn't. I could, like, it was so long ago, but I could, like, kind of slightly hear it, like, exhaling a little. But, I never really paid much attention to that. I mean, it was so, like, out of control. I mean, like, to see something like that would, like, change your whole life.
Oh yeah, I would say so. I mean, just the thought of that situation. I mean, I'm just running through my head. I'm picturing all this happening, and man, I mean, how'd that make you feel? I mean, you must have been scared out of your wits just observing all this.
You know what? When when the whole thing first started to go down, like when it came out of the woods and when it was running on that deer, I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared after it killed it, and I wasn't scared after it looked at me. I was
Mm.
scared when I got down out of the tree and had to go back to hunting camp
Oh
because,
yeah.
I had to walk like a mile and like almost a mile and a half backwards through the woods, keeping my eyes open to see what if there was anything coming after me. I
Right.
mean the thing never threatened me. There was no like the hunter being the hunted. There was none of that. It
Right.
it was, just let me get back home and be safe.
Absolutely. I mean, apparently that Bigfoot was just hungry and wanted something to eat. Just as much as why you were there hunting, you wanted something to eat. I mean, that's part of why we hunt. So
Absolutely. There's so much going on in this like particular subject. Like I hear like hundreds of stories about all this crazy stuff happening, like them phasing in and out of reality and all that stuff. And I don't really like pay a lot of attention to that, even though, there's got to be something there. But what
right.
I'm saying is what I saw was something that wanted to eat. That's what I saw. And there was no doubt about it. He wasn't there to kill a deer just for the ha-has. He was there to
Oh,
get something to eat.
absolutely.
And, so like, that's my sighting. But let me tell you, like, leading up to it, like, I would say almost 10 years before that, when I was a kid, we used to hear these things yelling at night. And I mean, it was more than one, at least three, maybe four. And they would go every night in the summer. They would like hoop back and forth. And they would make these noises. And I would say to my uncle, I'd say, hey, Uncle Bill, what is that? And he said, oh, that's bears. And let me tell you,
Oh,
I hunted that area since I was 11 years old, and I'm 60 now. And I have only seen one bear in all that time in the wild. Those weren't bears that were making that noise. And see, this is my belief. Like after sighting in the encounter, like I've been up to my neck in this stuff ever since. Like I've researched everything I could even think of. And what I believe they go where the food is.
yes. I agree.
Like, because like they came into that area when I was like about, I want to say 15 or 16, and wiped the deer out. They were gone. And after that, after the deer were gone, like maybe say like 5 years after my sighting, after the deer were gone, so were they. There's no sign, no reported sightings, no nothing. And it's been like quite a few years since like I've heard anything from that area.
Mm.
And it's weird. It's just I don't know how these things operate. I don't know what they do. I really have no like real clue. The only thing I know is they exist. I saw it with my own two eyes. I know what I saw, and that's all there is to that, you know?
Absolutely. Now, this area that you've been hearing them before you've ever had a sighting, how populated is this area? Is it all woods in there, or has it
All
changed?
like totally woods, like Green Mountains, Vermont, and like totally woods, like maybe like a family every half, 3/4 of a mile for like in a little group, and then there's nothing for like miles, you know,
Oh, okay.
and we're talking like you could hear one 5 miles off to the north, and then you would hear another one like 2 miles off to the south, and then there was another one. There were at least three that was like to the west, and they didn't do it just once. They did it like 3 or 4 times a piece.
Hmm.
You know, bears don't do that.
Right, absolutely. They might make a grunt every now and then, or
Yeah,
some of them might.
no, they don't. They don't make a yell like an opera singer.
Right.
I
Well,
mean, the sound they were putting out, no human could put that out. No way,
right. Yeah,
impossible.
because you would actually answer the question I was going to get ready to ask as far as the sounds or the vocals. What exactly were you hearing? But you described it as like a opera singing yell.
Well, no, what I meant was like the volume of it. It wasn't like an opera singer. To be honest with you, it was more or less like what you reportedly hear about. Like the whoop type of thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've had my share of hearing them. Trust me, I've heard them very close. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to describe. But if I was going to have to put it, I would say it was like spot on to like what you hear on like these crap shows like Finding Bigfoot and all that crap. I mean that show's crap, but like what the eyewitnesses describe, what the people that have encounters and hear these things describe, that's like probably spot on.
So we do have a question. Russell's asking, when you had your sighting, what color was a Bigfoot?
It was pitch black, black as night,
Wow.
like just like a black bear. Like maybe even darker if that's even possible. But this thing was, I want to say, because I'm a big wrestling fan and I know Andre the Giant. I've known Andre the Giant since I was a little kid. And I want to say this thing was just like a tick taller, like maybe 3 or 4 inches taller than Andre. So that would put him at like 7'7", 7'8".
Right. Yeah, people don't realize, a lot of people, your most average person, I feel your estimate of what you're giving is pretty accurate. Because, I think for a lot of people that see one that's probably around 7 foot, a lot of time people say, yeah, that thing was 10 feet tall when he was probably only 7,
Yeah. I know people like, and you got to understand, Dan, well, I know you understand, but like when something like this happens to you and you see something like that was like so mind-blowing, like you tend to like freak out and you don't, you just don't know what the hell's happening. You could say the thing was 10 feet tall, but yeah, it was probably 7.
Right.
People don't, nobody's ready for that. I don't, unless you're going looking for it, nobody's ready for that.
Well, yeah, I agree. And even if you are out looking for it, if you just so happen to see one, especially at close range, I mean, you said what 40 yards? 40 yards is, still a good.
No. Listen, that's one thing I wanted to clarify.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
The Bigfoot came out of the wood line, out of the tree line, 40 yards away from the deer. I was actually 60 yards on the other side of the road in a tree stand. So like when the Bigfoot came out, he was probably 100 yards from me, but he was
Oh,
only
okay.
40 yards. He was only 40 yards from where he grabbed the deer. So like I had a good, I want to say anywhere between 25 to 30 seconds to watch him run. And Daniel, you would not believe these things don't move like we move. This thing didn't miss a beat. It was out of that wood line and it was on that deer. And I'm telling you, it was less than 4 seconds. 4 seconds for 40 yards.
Wow.
You tell me that ain't something to see.
I could only imagine that's got to be that's pretty fast right there. I mean,
Well,
yeah, at that distance.
You know, when at the time that this happened, I was actually a national class track athlete, and I could run. I could run like the wind back in the day, but 40 yards in 40 seconds. No, I don't think so. Maybe 5.5 or whatever. But this thing was on that deer, and the deer never even picked its head up until it was like 3 or 4 feet away. And the deers, there were 2 of them, 2 deer. He grabbed the first one, and the other one was gone. As soon as he grabbed the first one, the other one took off. But he killed that first deer. I'm telling you, so fast you couldn't even blink. I mean, he killed it like there was nothing to it.
Wow, that's incredible, though.
And you know what bugs me the most about this whole thing? And I don't even want to start this really on this podcast because it probably drive you crazy. But
no, it's okay.
The government. I mean, why does the government refuse to acknowledge they exist?
Well, I have my theory on that, but
yeah, I got one too. It probably comes down to money somewhere, but
right, that's a big part of it, I think.
The thing is, though, I've looked into every encounter story. I'm on this stuff all the time, and it seems like every time the government gets involved, it gets squashed, and nobody wants to say anything. I don't know. Maybe there's something going on that we don't know about. Maybe not. But I'm going to tell you what. I did not get the sense at all that this thing wanted to hurt a human being. The sense that I got was like, I'm an animal or somewhere in between an animal and a human, and I got to eat. And if you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. And I generally see that in the thread through this whole mess. I mean, 9 times out of 10, if you don't threaten them, they're not going to threaten you.
Yeah, I agree. It's just like I tell people with a lot of wildlife, don't put yourself in that situation where they have to defend themselves or strike back. A snake usually won't. Yeah, a lot of snakes won't usually strike unless they feel threatened or cornered. So it goes with the rest of life.
Don't even get me going on the snake thing with the swamp people.
Right.
Yeah, I understand. You want to make a buck, go out and catch 10 snakes and make $1,000, but not me. I ain't doing that. No, I hunt deer, or at least I did until I, got older and disabled and stuff. But, I've been a woodman my whole life. And I've never seen anything like that. And I'm pretty sure I never will again. But I'm going to tell you what. If you want to talk to somebody that knows what's going, pretty much knows what the truth is, I'm the guy, because I saw it with my 2 eyes. And I don't lie about crap like this. I don't talk about it to a lot of people. As a matter of fact, I've only told a small handful of people because they think you're crazy.
Oh
But I
yeah,
know what I saw. I know what I saw, and I know that they're real. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with them being out there. I mean, they're entitled to live on this planet just like we are. And like I said, as long as you leave them alone, like you said, any wildlife, leave them alone, they'll leave you alone.
yep. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, yeah. I mean, we're living here, we're established here, but technically, I mean, mankind was the one that invaded so many years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
you know what, Daniel? How do we even know how long they've been here? Like
right,
they could have been here. They could have been here thousands of years before us. For all we know, they might be the masters of this planet and not us. We don't
right.
know.
Well, technically speaking, for those who want to give into consideration or have consideration on one particular species that was known to exist so many thousand years ago, um, Gigantopithecus. Now, I'm not saying Bigfoot is Gigantopithecus, but there is a theory behind that or a possibility. But
Oh, I'm well aware of that. Yes.
yeah, but some people believe that could be a descendant. I mean, things over years and time, things change. A lot of species have changed over the years.
Of
But
course, yeah, it's an
so
evolution. It's inevitable.
right,
Uh,
that
I mean, there's
everything.
nothing you can do about that.
I mean,
I mean,
even us as humans, right?
I don't know about Gigantopithecus, but if I was to hedge a guess, I would have to say, like, that's a pretty good chance. Like you said, descendant, and that's the key word. And you also mentioned things change. So, like, Gigantopithecus, descendant, evolution. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, I can definitely see it. And
Hmm.
if you think, if a species body changes, what about their brain? Do they become more intelligent? Or, there's a lot to it.
Yeah, I mean, over a period of time, even humans, us as humans, we adapted. When we change, we have to adapt with the change of life and how things are evolving with especially with technology. I mean, or not just technology, but we have no choice but to adapt and to evolve with the modern times because it's a sink or swim kind of situation. Same thing with a lot of these wildlife species, regardless if it's Sasquatch or any other known species, and primates in general. A lot of them are highly intelligent and they're able to adapt to survive to the living conditions. I mean, you know, um, I mean, there's mountain gorillas that live in cold environments. Most primates live in warm tropical environments, but it all depends what you adapt to and what you're able to survive through. But yeah. So as far as
Well,
intelligence, I mean, you have to get smart about something. As time changes. But,
yeah, about the intelligence thing. I mean, I wasn't like trying to imply that Gigantopithecus wasn't intelligent, but what
right.
these,
I got you.
what the encounter stories and everything I've heard. I've talked to several people that one on one, face to face, that have had encounters. These things are, I think, like supremely adept to living in the wild and not being seen. Right. I had this guy after I had my sighting, the day I had my sighting, as a matter of fact. I went home and I told my uncle what I saw. I didn't tell anybody else in the camp. I told my uncle because he was the only, I had to tell somebody. I was freaking out. And, I told him, and he said, Jonathan, calm down. He goes, you're not the only one around here that ever saw that. So, like, the next morning, he said, come on, let's take a ride. And he took me to this old guy that lived about, I want to say, maybe 4.5, 5 miles from where I had my sighting. This guy had a farm. I want to say 1,000 acres or so. Big farm. It wasn't an operating farm. Like, he didn't have a lot of cattle on or nothing like that. But he told me, this is what this guy told me. Over a span of 5 years, he would feed a family of 3 of these things. And he fed them like mostly apples. Like he would put meat out there every once in a while, and they would take it, but they didn't really seem to like that. They wanted the produce, like the apples, and he would put heads of lettuce and stuff like that out. And this guy said these things would come in like regularly, like every 48 hours, like every 2 days, and clean all the food out and leave. And then he would come back like 2 more days later and take more food. And this guy said, oh, yeah, I looked right out my window at him. There were 3 of them. And he described them. And this guy had no reason to lie to me. This is some old guy that lives in the hills of Vermont that don't give a crap about nothing. The only thing he's got is his word, and he's telling me, and it's the truth. I can tell you that right now. He was seeing what he saw.
Now, he was in Vermont. And clarify again one more time where your sighting was. Was that in Vermont as well?
My sighting was in East Corinth, Vermont.
Okay.
And this guy, I think, believed in Corinth, which was like 4 miles, separate. Okay. And that's a small range for an animal like that. I mean, they've got to have a range of I would want to say 50 miles. I would want to guess, they're going to go where the food is.
Right. Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, because there, you're not the only one talking about how fast or witness, or you're one of so many that has witnessed their speed. So, I mean, if they can move that fast and that much distance, and close in so quick, I mean, yeah, think about it. I mean, I'm sure walking on their own, they probably have a lot of endurance, and yeah, I mean, there's humans that walk a long ways.
You got to ask yourself, what else do they have to do all day? The only thing they have to do is secure their food. And if they got to walk 20 miles to do it, they're going to walk 20 miles to do it.
Right.
I mean,
absolutely.
You got to eat. And if I'm going to tell you, I estimate the animal that I saw, I would have to say was pushing 700 pounds. The reason I say that is because Andre was 7'4" and weighed at his tops, in between 520 and 550. And this thing was much heavier than Andre was. Much heavier.
Yeah.
And Andre could have never crossed that field in 4 seconds either. So you're talking about a creature with an incredible strength, like an animal, for real, an animal that can move like you cannot believe.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, I know not a lot of people are going to agree with this. I mean, but entertaining the thought that they are some type of primate, if we look at our non-human primates, we'll use chimpanzees, for example. We could use gorillas, but I'll stay with the chimpanzees. I mean, a chimpanzees, their muscle mass. No, if you're comparing a chimpanzee to a human, um, their muscle mass is. I don't even. I don't have the words or the notes to describe it, but their muscle mass
Which is
compared
a
to a
shame.
body fat, yeah, they have very little body fat. They're
Yeah,
almost
no, they're built to move,
right,
and
and their structure is unbelievable.
I don't care what creature, what species, what anything you're talking about. You are built to survive. I mean, you get what you need to survive. It's
Hmm.
given to you, by whatever there is. I don't know about God or any of that stuff, but what I'm saying is like these animals need to have that kind of like physique, that kind of speed, that kind of strength to survive. They don't have the brain that we have. Like Daniel, let's be honest. I mean, we survived on this planet for thousands of years without electricity, without technology, without any of that stuff.
Right.
And
Yeah.
but the thing we had that they don't is this brain that like gives us the capability to cheat, like to make technology like what we're talking over right now, and like the internet to share information. Like we have it made. I mean, these
Yeah.
animals, like they're out there in the middle of nowhere, and they got to eat. So
Absolutely.
what I'm saying is, you get what you need to survive. And what I saw, geez, I hate to tell you, I don't think I'll ever see another one, but I can tell you one thing for sure, that they're real and they're there. And whatever it's going to come down to, you know what? I don't even think it's that big of a deal. I mean, they survived this long, and we survived this long without having to have any laws or regulations about these things. Leave them be. Leave them be. Granted, it would be nice to like find out exactly what they are and all of that, but I don't think that's going to happen. I
Right.
really don't. I think there's way more to this than even somebody like you that is like into this stuff like for real. I think there's more to this than even you could even think of. There's something weird going on.
Oh,
I, I,
I
I mean,
agree.
my sighting was like plain nature at its best. I mean, there was nothing funky about it. There was no disappearing creature, no orbs, no none of that. But if you add up all of the encounter stories, like all the sightings and all the stuff that happens, and how many times that weird stuff comes up, I don't care how you slice it. 500 people out of 500 people, I would say I would buy maybe 300 of them are full of shit, but not 500. There's something there, and I don't know what it is, and I'm gonna go to my grave trying to find out, but there's something weird going on there.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we as humans, and I'm sure you may have seen some of them on social media, but there's a lot of theories and a lot of crazy claims, and people have their own thoughts and theories, but and most of them, that's all they are, just theories. But I I tend to stay more grounded and try to view things from an earthly point of view on most things. I mean, but
You
then
know,
again,
I'm
there's a
I'm
lot of
I'm the, I'm the same way. I
yeah.
mean, I know what I saw. I'm not an idiot. I got an education. I read. I pretty much know what I buy and what I don't buy. And I'm telling you, I don't care how you slice it. There's a lot more going on here than I haven't figured it out. I probably never will, but there's more going on here than just an animal running around the planet. I don't know whether it's being protected for a reason, like the government is being quiet for a reason. I don't know whether people are just too freaked out about it. I don't know what it is. But, I know what I saw. That's all I know.
Right.
I have, like you said, like millions of theories. Like I have a lot of theories.
Right.
They're just that, theories. The only thing I know for sure is what I saw.
Right.
And what I saw was alive, and what I saw was a predator, and what I saw did not give a rat's you know what that I was watching.
Right.
It did not care. And I had a high powered rifle, Daniel. I could have dropped it like a bad habit. I could have put a bullet in his brain so easy. Because, like 60 yards away with a high powered rifle with a scope on it is like picking a cherry. I never even thought about shooting that thing. I never even crossed my mind. That's how weird, the whole thing was. Like I said, I will not shoot an animal that I won't eat unless it's like a threat or something like that. I would never do that.
Right.
And there was no way I was going to shoot that thing, but I could have. And this thing could have been over in 1982. Everybody wouldn't know what the hell was going on. But I suspect that like, and more times than not, that happens. I mean, you're not going to tell me like thousands of hunters and like outdoorsmen and people that live in rural areas don't encounter these things with a gun in their hand. Come on. How many stories do you actually hear somebody say where they actually pulled up and took a shot at one? There's a few, they're here and there.
Right.
But,
absolutely.
I don't know about anybody else, but I'm not going to shoot anything that I don't know what it is.
Yeah, there's some stories I heard, whether it would be through a documentary or just hearing some other people's stories, secondary stories. Some people claim that they were looking at it right through their rifle scope, and a lot of people, right, and then a lot of other people were armed, but they couldn't, they didn't feel right, they didn't feel comfortable taking that shot because they felt like they were going to shoot a human, And,
well, there's like a culture that goes along with hunting. Like, you don't kill what you don't eat. Right. I mean, I'm just telling you what my old man taught me. You don't shoot at anything if you don't know what it is. And you don't pull the trigger unless you know you're going to kill what you're pulling the trigger on.
Right.
And I'm telling you, I'm guaranteeing you, 99.5% of the people on this planet that were brought up in a hunting culture know the same rules. I mean, you just don't do it.
Right.
And
absolutely. And plus, Native Americans looked the same way. They didn't believe in killing something either unless they were going to eat it.
No, of course not. Why would you?
Right.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, like there are like various cultures. Like just talk the U.S., just the U.S. alone. Like you have the South, you have New England, you have the Midwest, you have the Pacific Northwest, where like these things like are reportedly cited the most. I'll guarantee you that more than a few, I would say more than a couple dozen of these things have been killed. But like, Dan, let me ask you a question. If you shot one of these things and killed it, would you call somebody and report it? I mean, for real.
Well, the thing is, I'm right there with you. I would only kill it if I felt threatened or I had to defend myself. But
I'm not saying that. Right. I'm saying like if you had to shoot it and you had to kill it, like it was him or them, him or you, and you had to kill it, would you call like the Department of Environmental Protection and say, I killed this thing that looks like basically like a big ass me, you know, with hair all over it. Yeah, I
Well,
mean, no, I would. I don't think I would. I'd be digging a hole
no.
and I would bury that sucker.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, one of the things I would do, to be honest with you, I don't think I would call any authorities because I would call my friends and my family and gather the most witnesses. Because if you were
There
to
you
ever
go.
talk about, yeah, because if you ever try to share that story, a lot of people, a majority of people wouldn't believe you. Now, I would. That's why I would say, well, I have plenty of witnesses who've seen this, who can verify this. Take pictures, take videos, document everything you can. Say, hey,
Yeah.
I got
No,
the
I
proof. I got
agree.
the.
I mean, get your guns loaded before you go to war. I agree. But back when this happened to me, I didn't have that luxury. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have none of that.
Right.
And basically, like everything I learned after that was through like technology, except for like certain times like that I put boots on the ground, like, and I go talk to people, which I have done, and I know there's something weird going on with this whole thing. I don't know what it is. And, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to keep listening and I'm going to keep reading and I'm going to keep learning. And, who knows? Maybe one day, I might have another encounter, but I'm not banking on it. But I know what I saw. I know what I saw, dude. And they're as real as you are or I am or anybody else on this planet. And I dare anybody to, tell me I'm wrong. I dare them because I know what I saw.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's your story, and I believe you too. I mean, be honest with you, I wasn't there, 1982. I mean, shoot. To be honest with you, I was only 2 years old.
Dude, I'm going to be 60 in May, the first week of May. I can't even believe where the time went.
Right.
But like I said, this thing happened to me when I was 19 years old. And I've been looking into this and reading and following and talking to people for that long. So, like, I know what I know. And, there's no way to prove anything unless, like, the government comes out and said, yeah, we have bodies. We've dissected or did autopsy or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, unless the government comes out and says they're real, then it's going to be the same run around from now until the end of time, unless somebody puts one on a table. And I'm not saying go shoot one for ha-has just to prove they're real. I don't agree with that. But like, say if something happens and somebody has to defend themselves and they do it the right way, like you said, get enough witnesses, get the thing, take pictures, do all of this, and then turn it in. And then the government has no choice but to admit they're real. That's the only way this thing is going to end. Only way is if somebody can prove, put it right there in black and white for everybody to see right in front of their eyes. That's the only way it's going to end.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead.
Anyway, this has been quite an interview, and I do follow you, and I do learn from you, so I appreciate that. And I guess that's about all there is to say, right?
Well, I mean, I thank you for sharing your information. I mean, you're full of knowledge. I mean, as far as there's a lot of what you shared too, apart from your sighting and that situation. I feel like we're on the same page with a lot of stuff. I mean, which is it's refreshing for me to hear someone else share what you shared tonight.
Bob, just to end it off, in 2005, I had a stroke, and I had it when I was climbing the stairs to go take a shower, and I fell down and broke my back. So I became disabled. I mean, I get around fine just now. I can still hunt, I can do it, whatever I have to do, with some effort. But ever since that happened, like I spend a lot of my time like trying to figure this stuff out.
Right.
And I'm not an idiot. Yeah, I mean, I got a college education. And these there's a lot more going on here than we know. I mean, why the government stop fessing up? Why, why the cover up? And there is a cover up. I don't care how you slice it.
Yeah.
Why that's happened, I don't know. But there's guys out there like you, and there's a few of them out there that I like. That I'm not going to mention names because some of them are idiots, but not all of them.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it takes me. It only takes me like 3 or 4 minutes to figure out who's an idiot and who's not. And you're one of the better ones out there. You put the time in. You know what you're talking about. I mean, there's these guys out here trying to make a buck off of this crap, and it ain't about that. I mean, I don't know about you, but like people that live in rural areas like Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, all over the country, in areas that are rural, you've got to encounter stuff like this, like a lot. You pack a firearm, and like I said, you don't shoot at, you don't kill what you don't eat. Leave the rest of them alone. And that's all there is to it.
I wanted to read off this. I don't know if you see it on your end, but I'll read it off. My buddy Wes, he says, I think if a person kills one, they better get out of the woods as fast as they can because there is probably more around. Now, he's not the first person to say that. I agree to this because a lot of times people tend to believe that they work in groups or they travel in groups or clans, as some people refer to them. Well, and I believe that's true.
Like I told you, Daniel, when I used to hear those vocalizations that night, there were definitely 3 of them.
Right.
And the animal that I saw, if there were 3 of them and they had me surrounded, there's nowhere to go. You can't outrun something that can outrun a deer. You can't. It's impossible. And they know the woods better than we do. So if they want you, they could have you at any time. So like if they were here to like cause us harm, it'd be all over the place. I mean, they're not here to hurt us. They're not here to hurt us.
Right.
They're just here to live.
And I think, and I know I've heard other people say this, and I agree to this, but I feel like they're smart and they sense things. And when we're in the woods, if we're out to do harm or just do no good in general, I believe they know that. They know that we're innocent. But then on the other hand, they know, I feel like if you're out there causing trouble and out to do no good, they know that as well. So.
People call them like guardians of the forest.
Right.
And
absolutely.
I would tend to like lean that way. I would tend to say they're here for a reason. I mean, there's got to be a reason, right? And I don't see a heck of a lot of stories where they actually initiate violence. I hardly see any, like a small handful. And how many of those are made up?
Right. That's
like
that's a good thought.
Out of every 10 stories, Daniel, that you hear, how many of them do you buy and how many of them, think something weird going on here? I mean, I've gone through thousands of encounter stories. And out of those thousands, I'd say probably maybe 1,000 of them make sense to me.
Right.
Like actually could have happened the way the people said it. And that doesn't mean that like anxiety on their part or, like weather, like things going on around you can't distort your view of what's going on. But, 9 times out of 10, you got to really look hard at what you're seeing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you got to really try to get yourself together and gather your thoughts and focus. You know, I mean, I know
Yeah,
it's
I
easier said
mean,
than done, but
my sighting was 9 a.m. in the morning, broad daylight, second week in November, on a bright sunny day. I mean, there was no obstruction, no nothing. I had a clear view. I can't imagine anybody having a clearer one than I had. And I looked at this thing through my scope, and I know it was a male. And I can estimate the size pretty close. I would say I'm pretty damn close. And it's just like unbelievable to think of like something that big moving that fast. It's just not, you don't see it. It's not like a bear running around the woods. It's not a deer. I mean, come on, this thing ran a deer down, and I wouldn't pull a trigger on a wide open deer. I would never try to shoot a deer at full gallop. Never do it. But
right,
this thing, man, I've never seen anything move that fast. The only difference was it was like about 500, 600 pounds bigger than a deer, and I could have shot the thing easy. I could have killed it as sure as I'm talking to you. It never even crossed my mind. Never crossed my mind.
right, absolutely. Um, yeah, there was something else I was going to throw out there. Oh no, I was just reading. Wes had another comment up there. He says, "I wonder why." Hold on, I went away. He said, "I wonder why they like to hang around Native American burial mounds." Well, he put it as grounds. I don't know if he meant mounds, but I don't know. What's your take on that?
As far as that kind of stuff goes, I'm not really sure. I think a lot of it has to do with maybe this is just a guess. All right, so before like civilization the way it is now, with technology and all that stuff, and humans crawling everywhere. I
Hmm.
think there were the Native Americans, and then there were these creatures, and I think there was a lot of respect and a lot of trust built up there. So I think like maybe, just maybe, like Sasquatch being as close to us as I could imagine, like as far as like a species. Maybe they have emotions. Maybe they have like they feel safe there, or something to that effect. I'm not really sure. I mean, how could I even guess?
Right. No, I mean
You
that's a
know,
fair response. Yeah, that's a very fair response. I mean that's a good response actually. Um, yeah, I mean like you mentioned earlier that they're basically considered or known as the guardians of the forest. Many Native American tribes actually refer to them as the big brother of the forest. I
yeah,
mean, they were
yeah,
known as many different
exactly.
things. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
they have more names than we could even count. But
right.
I mean, you go to Native American tribes, and they'll all tell you the same thing. It's they put them more or less above us. I mean, like they're to be respected, they're to be revered, and above all, to be left alone. You know, if you see one, you've been honored to see one.
Right. I
I,
agree.
they don't just pop out in front of anybody. I don't care how you slice it. The only way you're ever going to see one is if you're in between them and their food, or they're curious about you. And you
Right.
see it all the time. Like you see them looking in people's windows. You see them standing in people's yards looking at the house. They're curious.
Hmm. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
what creature wouldn't be curious?
I mean,
You
yeah, I
know?
mean, that only makes sense because, I mean, well, we believe that they're highly intelligent, but they're observing us living the way we do, knowing that that's not how they live. Like so they're like they want to know, how did we build our structure that we what we call a house, or whatever.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that could be one reason, but and I ain't like one of these like wild conspiracy theorists or like somebody that thinks far out things. But there could be
right,
a lot more going on here than we know. I
yeah,
mean, you know, if they learned at the same rate as we do, they'd be the ones living in high rises and making millions of dollars. There,
right,
there's, you know what I'm saying? It's like they're like a step below us on like the evolutionary chain or whatever the heck you want to call it. But
yeah,
but they're getting smarter every day.
right,
Every day that goes by, they learn something.
absolutely. They're they're adapting and evolving with the times and changes and what's presented.
And the habitat is running out for these creatures.
Sadly,
I mean,
yeah,
you
I
see
hate.
it all the time. Like you see the encounter stories are getting closer and closer to like highly inhabited areas, and it's not because they're coming in; it's because we're pushing into their area,
Yeah, and
and
I see it for
that's human
myself,
nature.
and I hate to think about that, but you're right. It's happening, and I see it for myself,
Been
especially here in
happening, been
yeah.
happening for 100 years.
I mean,
Been
here in
going on. We've been
Virginia.
pushing on them for 100 years.
I mean, I seen when I moved to Virginia. I was only 11 years old when I moved down here, but when I grew up on the other side of Virginia, on the east side of the mountains here, and one area in particular, and this ain't the only place, but there's one particular place. It was full of woods and heavily wooded forests. Now all those forests are completely wiped out. There's shopping centers, strip malls,
Subdevelopments.
yeah, exactly. Yes, new townhome apartments, and I mean, all that used to be fully wooded. Now it's gone, and I'm seeing more and more of it today because with my job, I deliver to a lot of construction sites, and a lot of the construction sites I go to are newly being built subdivisions and new houses and subdevelopments, and it's outrageous. I was like, and and again, you can't help but think about it. It's like, man, this used to be all woods. We're
It's coming to the point. I mean, Daniel, you live in Virginia. I live in Connecticut. Like
right.
there ain't a heck of a lot of like acreage here, that people aren't inhabiting. But like you go out the states like I don't know, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Kansas, all of those places. Never mind Alaska, California, Pacific Northwest, never mind any of that. But like we're pushing in on them. We've been pushing in on them forever.
Yep.
And sooner or later it's going to come down to like something's going to happen. I don't know whether the government's going to have to come out and say, yeah, they're real, which would I don't know if it would be a blessing or a curse because it would be all these laws and all this stuff. Everything would change.
Right.
We're not talking about a black bear, a grizzly, even a polar bear. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a species never before confirmed by man, like dealt with by man. And you don't think if the government had to come out and admit that, you don't think that wouldn't be a world of shit coming after that?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a number of things that could take place. I mean, in the past, I've used the spotted owl for example. I mean, the spotted owl was discovered a few different times over the early 1990s and even before the 90s came around. But it wasn't until I forget actually way before that. We could go way back from the 60s to the 80s. But when the spotted owl was officially declared an endangered species out in the Pacific Northwest, almost automatically, instantly, the logging industry came to a dead stop, like a major halt, all because of this little tiny owl, the spotted owl, and because it was again declared an endangered species when it was reestablished or rediscovered, and yeah, when the logging industry came to a halt, that was a big part of the economy out west. I mean, it's a big part of the economy here on the East Coast as well, but more out there. However,
Oh, of
that put it
course, yeah.
that yeah that put a hurting on the economy and put a lot of people out of work. So um, yeah, think about all the legal issues if Bigfoot was declared or was actually publicly known, put on record that yes, Bigfoot does exist, and then all these other laws stop following. Would they have to discuss? I
Yeah.
mean, they would have to put it on the on an endangered species list just to protect them, and then there's
Yeah, of course.
other factors.
See, this I think has a lot to do with the bottom line. Because if they were to do that, like they were to declare that they're real and they had to protect them, what is that going to cost the American people? I mean, there are so many families out there all across the country that rely on hunting, hunting deer, hunting birds, whatever you bears, whatever you want to eat. How would the new laws that are going to come into effect going to affect them?
Right.
That's why I think they are not going to touch this because people need to eat. And
Yeah.
Sasquatch was here as long as we have been here, and they're still here. And as far as I'm concerned, they seem to be doing all right. I mean, why do we even need to get into it? Leave them alone.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
it would be nice if we all knew, like guys like me and you, actually knew, had it on paper, like exactly what they were.
right.
But I'm particularly not overly like enthused about them like coming out and saying they're real because of what's going to happen. And it's going to be so complicated, Daniel. If they were to admit they're real, it would become very, very complicated for the whole country,
Right.
the whole world, actually.
Well, it's the same. There's this same mindset I have when it comes to the mountain lion, the North American mountain lion, cougar, panther, whatever you want to refer to it as. Especially here on the East Coast, and there's other parts of the United States as well that we do have them here. There's eyewitnesses to seeing them, but I'll use Virginia and the surrounding states for an example. Tennessee, Kentucky, even North Carolina. There's many eyewitnesses, but your authorities deny them. There's people that have reported to me, responding to some of my blogs, that they have seen them on their own property over on the other side of the mountain from here. And so, anyway, when they call reports these to the authorities blatantly come out and tell you that ain't what you saw. We don't have them here. The authorities,
they do that constantly. It's funny that you brought up the mountain lion because in the last 2 days, I've talked to two neighbors that have seen them. I mean, not like right here in this area, but one guy saw one about 20 miles from here, and the other guy saw one about maybe, I would say about 20 miles in the other direction, and they both saw him clear as day. I mean, the state of Connecticut will deny that they've even set foot on Connecticut soil, but that's bull crap. They're
right.
here.
Oh yeah,
They're
absolutely. I mean, they're here in Virginia. They're in Tennessee. They're in Kentucky, North Carolina. I mean, you can't call these people liars that are seeing them. I myself saw one in 2015. I mean, in my own research area, my hunting grounds, my camping grounds. I mean, it's all there. I mean, I know we got bobcats out there. I mean, I've captured bobcats twice on my cameras out there, but I know mountain lions are out there. I know there's, and many other people know too. But and that goes back to the authorities when they're in denying of it because they're programmed, they're taught, they're trained to tell the public, no, we don't have them here. So you got to ask yourself why. Well, it's a couple of different factors I believe that are involved in that, and it's part of it's considered the fear factor, and economic reasons as well. If the public learned that these species existed in our national parks and national forests and on our public lands, people are going to
Yeah, they
start
wouldn't
freaking
go
out
there.
and panicking. Right. And there goes the stop of money that puts into people buying things to go spend time out there. Yeah, people will stop doing that, and there goes the economy. It'll decline, and but so yeah, there's people, they don't want the people to panic. That's the
You know what? When you're talking about cats like this, bobcats, mountain lions, stuff like that. Remember how I told you I grew up as a hunter? Like my uncle, the same man that I told about my sighting. Like when I first was a little kid, he drilled it into me. He said, Jonathan, he goes, when you're out in the woods and you're sitting there by yourself, he goes, there's one thing you got to look out for, and that's a cat.
Mhm.
And
Oh yeah,
he wasn't talking about no house cat neither. He was talking about bobcat, lynx, mountain lion. He goes, they'll take you out in a second.
yep.
And I believed him. I've never seen a mountain lion. I've never seen a bobcat in the wild. With my eyes laid right on. Never have yet. But I'm sure my girlfriend saw a bobcat out here like maybe 3 months ago.
Hmm.
Right outside the house. They're around. I mean, that's what they do. They don't want you to see them.
Yeah, yeah, very stealthy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's Tennessee Kentucky Bigfoot said he's got a mountain lion on camera north of Jamestown. I'm assuming he's referring to Jamestown, Virginia, because we do have a Jamestown here. If there's one in Kentucky or Tennessee, I'm not aware of that, but interesting. I would definitely love to see that. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
no,
mm,
I think I've pretty much seen everything I need to see. I mean, I do, I still do intend to go out hunting, but it's just I don't expect to ever see anything like that again. I mean, that was a one-shot deal. But
yeah,
that's all I needed to see. I mean, I know what I saw with my own two eyes. I know what I
right,
read. I got a pretty good, you know, sense of what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. So like a lot of this stuff I can throw out, but you can't
right,
throw it all out. You can't throw it all out. And there's like so much going on this subject. I mean, I'll never see the end of it. I mean, by the time I die, they still might not even know what the hell's going on.
right.
I don't know. It's been what year was what? Patterson Gimlin was what, 68?
67, 1967.
67.
Yeah,
All right. All right. So 67. Right. That was like the first like documented ever footage. Like that's what started this whole thing off. And it's been that long. And yeah, I mean, the Freeman footage was all right. But like most of
yeah,
the rest of the crap out there, most of the rest of the stuff you see out there, no, you can't tell anything. But
yeah.
just from them two films alone, the Patterson Gimlin film and the Freeman footage, I mean, how can you tell me that there's some jamoke in a monkey suit running around in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere? No. I don't. You could talk till you blue in the face. That ain't happening. You don't find 7-foot tall guys that are willing to jump into a monkey suit and run around the woods.
Right, right.
You're not
Absolutely.
going to make any money off of it, dude. I mean, you're going to get on YouTube and people are going to laugh at you. But no, no 7-foot tall dude is going to get in a monkey suit and run around the woods. I
Well,
mean, I don't care who you are.
yeah, but
You
yeah,
know,
there's a there's a lot of people in Bigfoot costumes and posting pictures of cutouts and stuff.
Yeah, but you can pick those out in 2 seconds. I mean,
but
you see footage like that, 2 seconds after you saw it, whether maybe there might be something here or maybe not. But after 2 seconds, you know if it's a fake or it's not.
yeah.
And 7 foot tall guys are very hard to come by. Very hard to come by.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and the sad thing is with all these, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's a lot of it going on social media. There's these images, and they're called AI images. It's basically
artificial intelligence.
automated intelligence and all that. And there's apps people could download on your phone. Sometimes you got to pay for some of these certain apps, but I know a couple people use them to create their artwork, and these people are real good at creating what they do. But there's a lot of these AI images that are going around social media, people using them on their YouTube channel and using them as clickbait, and people are falling for them. People are believing that they're real images.
I'll tell you what about that. I'll tell you one thing about that. If you saw one in real life and you know what you looked at, I can guarantee you 100%. You put one of those images in front of me. If it's fake, I'll tell you in 2 seconds it's fake.
Right.
I don't care how you slice it. I know what automated imagery and all, artificial intelligence and all that crap is. I know what it is. I know what's real and what ain't.
Right.
And like I said, I've seen 2 films that I buy 100%. And I told you who they were, Patterson and Freeman.
Right.
And, there's quite a few other ones out there that I would say like 95% sure that they're real. But those 2, undeniable. Undeniable. I don't care what you could put Jeff Meldrum, Joe Schmo, especially don't give me Matt Moneymaker, because I'll shred that guy up. I'll shred him in a minute.
Yeah, I got you on that one.
You money making phony. I mean, it disgusts me. It really does.
Right.
I mean, this is a real thing. People have the right to know. People have the right to know. People have the right to protect themselves. And people have the right to respect them. Humans are definitely not perfect. I mean, there are a lot of people out there that'll go confront these things just for ha-has. Yep. I mean, come on, be real. I mean, let's go harass Bigfoot. Ha, ha, ha. No. They have as much right to live here as we do. Leave them alone. Leave them alone.
Right.
Yeah, you want to take a picture. You want to take a picture on your cell phone. You want to take a video. You want to go out and you want to mount up evidence and all that stuff. But let's not be running around like a bunch of yahoos in a pickup truck trying to kill a Bigfoot. I mean, that's ridiculous. And it happens. Daniel, it happens.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's people that actually do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, they do it quite often, sadly. But real quick,
they even had a TV show on Travel Channel a few years ago. Bigfoot is real, or Killing Bigfoot, or some crap like that, where a bunch of these yahoos down south were like going to under the guise of, we're going to help these people protect their property. Protect them for what? These animals aren't hurting anybody. And these guys were going out and like they were hunting down a carnivorous bear, a killing bear. Like they were lining up all over the place trying to kill one of these things. I mean, for what? For what?
Right. Absolutely. Hey, hold that thought, Jonathan. I just want to let the audience and the viewers that are on here right now, if you have any questions for Jonathan before we close tonight, please throw them out there now as I get ready to ask Jonathan another question. And after we get through this, if I don't see the questions, we're going to call it a night. But Again, take advantage of this time. If you have any questions for Jonathan, let's throw them up on the chat. But Jonathan, I wanted to ask you a couple different things. First of all, do you still get out and hunt?
I haven't been in like 3 years because I'm going through something with my diabetes with neuropathy. But
okay.
you know, I do live. I live in the woods. I mean, I live like in the middle of the woods. I mean,
Nice.
I'm always in the woods. But you
Okay.
know, like my whole life, ever since I was like, as long as I could remember, I've been in the woods. You know, there ain't too many people that could put too much over on me in the woods.
Right.
You know, but these you know, this thing that's going on is really, really weird. And I don't know what it is. I hope someday like to get more answers, but I'll keep like listening to guys like you, and I listen to Encounter Stories on Cam Buckner's channel, Dixie Cryptid. I listened to that. I kind of stopped listening to Steve Ishtal, even though
Yeah.
I read it. I read his
Yeah.
book and I liked the book, but I don't like throwing in politics and all that. You know, the government's this, the government's that, into all this crap. I'm not, you know, I'm not talking about
Yeah.
that. I'm talking about what I saw.
Right.
And I want to know what other people saw. I don't want to hear, oh, the government's trying to screw you over this and screw you over that. I'm not here for that. You know,
Yeah.
I know what the government's doing, and there ain't nothing I can do about it. So, you know, I just roll with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, well, maybe somewhere down the road. I don't know if you like to camp or anything, but who knows? Maybe we could get together. I could bring a couple of my team members up next year, and we could plan a camp out. Somewhere up there, maybe around your area where you had your sighting. I mean, if you're up for something like that.
I think Vermont would be a good place to check out. But like I said, Daniel, I think these things like move into an area and they exhaust the food, and then they move on, and then they come back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like they're starting to come back up there because the deer population is coming back. But like I said, like after they wiped it out, like 5 years after I had my sighting, there were no more deer, and there were no more Sasquatch either.
Mm.
You follow me? They go where the food is.
Right.
And I think that's why when you see like where the concentrations of sightings are in areas where the deer population is plentiful and it doesn't get exhausted. I think that's why you see so many like encounters there.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly on that. Because even Jeff Meldrum had stated in this point in one of his presentations that I got to sit in on. Basically, he was making a point on predator animals, looking at the food sources and the ecology of that particular area or the habitats or the environment of that forest. If that area or location can sustain, or food sources for like bears, for example, if a bear and other predators could strive off that land, then most likely, he said it in a different way, but basically, look at a Sasquatch. If the food sources for apex predators like bears, for example, and mountain lions could feed off and strive off of there, then we can consider that Bigfoot exists there too. So
Bigfoot cannot exist where they can't eat. It's impossible. Right. I mean, so like what I'm saying to you like is like a no-brainer. I mean, they've got to go where the food is. And I'm telling you right now, I live in Connecticut, and I've like researched the whole state, like every like reported sighting, BFRO, like anything else I could pick up on. And we had a sighting, I want to say about 25 to 30 miles from here. and this place is loaded with deer. I mean, I see more deer than sometimes that I see people. I mean, that's how many deer we have around here.
Right.
And the sighting this lady had, the state police went out and checked it out, and like they found depressions in the ground right where she said it was standing, and the window ledge was 8 foot off the ground, and the lady said that the eyeballs were just a little bit below the window ledge, but the crown of the head was right at the top of the window ledge, and she was 8 feet away from this thing. The only thing separating her was her house, like the window. She was in the kitchen, and she was behind like whatever you want, like a countertop or whatever it was, and the thing was looking at her right through the window.
Right.
And this lady had no reason to lie. And the cops went out there, and it's well documented. And there were like impressions in the ground, and they said they were 2 inches depressions in the ground, 2 inches. I mean, even when I was fat and I was heavy, I couldn't put a 2-inch impression in the ground. No way.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, how many 7-foot tall guys are running around out there looking in people's windows? No, it don't happen.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up because I'm getting tired. But it was great talking to you.
Yeah, I want to thank you for.
And I'm following you. So keep up the good work.
Well, thank you very much. And I mean, I really appreciate you coming on here. This was an awesome discussion, and you shared a lot of awesome information and knowledge. And for those who are listening and those for the future listeners, I hope you guys, enjoyed this and take in consideration what we discussed tonight. For those who are watching, if you have not subscribed, definitely take advantage of that option. Subscribe and hit that little bell icon. That way, every time we go live, you get the notifications. Even with field videos, I got some field videos and projects coming up soon. So, meanwhile, guys, keep it squatchy and tune in every Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We go live. We'll be back next Friday night, March 17th, I believe the date is. So we're going to touch base. I'll be here. Absolutely. We'll be touching base with a little bit of paranormal with my paranormal team friends that will be joining us. So, you guys keep it squatchy. And until next time, we'll be back. So, and
take care,
we're going to call it a night here. You too. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye now.
All right.
The ECBRO Virginia Bigfoot Conference sponsors. Sponsored and promoted by Legit Paranormal.